Get the knowledge. Oh, that's right. Bring it down and ground it.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that we had our refresher
We
at the
needed
book
it.
signing.
Yes. And if you guys are listening, what we're talking about is the book signing that we recently had on June 4th. We had a great time. And if you were at the conference last October, you know we had Sati moving our boomsies, and this time we got to do it in person. So yeah, we have some content coming out. Look at our social media and stuff. But if you were there, you know we had a good time dancing and moving the boomsies and remembering those amazing moves. Yeah.
I hate to create FOMO,
Okay.
right? But I will say, like, every time we get together for a book signing, like, it's epic.
Right.
And then I saw Sati's um, Women Engaged post
Hmm. Hmm.
about voter registration. I had a little FOMO
I
because
did.
she was at, did you too? I
I said,
did too.
"Oh, I
Give
forgot
a
about the
shout
event."
out to you, Sati. Like, tag us on your events. We'll
Yeah.
come shake our boomsies with you.
Yes. That's how I felt. I said, "I wanna move my boomsie this summer. Yeah, I need to go to an event."
Right?
And yeah, we definitely wanna do it in a healthy way. As a business owner, part of me is like, do I wanna create FOMO?" Right? But genuinely, ladies, right, gentlemen who would come to Women Connected in Wisdom events, we want you to be there. Even when you're there, we know from the book signing in January, because we do such an amazing job at having a lot of experts, you might still miss something. If you went to move your boomsie with Sati in January, you missed glowing from head to toe with Shalo Glow, and that is a challenge that we're going to have with so many experts. But we have the resource library on the website. So if you want to get plugged in, we have it for you there. And we have more events coming up for you. We'll keep you guys posted.
Super fun.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I love about this community and I love about what we're building is
Mm,
it's not just us. It's
no.
the people that show up for the events. Like, come on now.
Teachers,
Come
right?
on now.
Teachers, people from all over different spans of life, industries, and experience. So it was beautiful to see the room on the 4th and how it looked different from the room at the Overture. I've been
Right?
saying since I stepped into the businesses, I've had the opportunity to speak to every age group except for little kids and toddlers. And we know that Carolyn Renee's taking care of that. So across the group, we're reaching everybody.
Right?
Yeah.
Intergenerational wellness. I
Yes.
love that. Well, hey,
Mhm.
how about we do our introduction and we talk more about this
Let's
because
do
I
it.
think we have more to say about that.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we
All
do.
right, let's do it.
Hi, ladies. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial entrepreneur and Amazon bestselling author, the founder of Shalo Glow, an all-natural handmade personal products company that helps people with dry skin glow from head to toe. I'm a champion for your self-care, business care, and intentional wellness.
Hey, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux,
Yeah.
a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, Amazon best-selling published author, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Yes. Together we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co-founders of Women Connected in Wisdom community.
And we like to get together every week for intentional conversations about how to be well in business, relationships, and wellness, and how to be wise. I said
Yes.
well twice, but you know how to be wise
Well,
and
and
well
that's what I
in
was
all
going to
those
say.
categories,
Both.
right?
Yeah.
And usually we have amazing expert guests, but
Mhm.
today is our
Rap.
season 13
Yes.
wrap.
Yes, it
What?
is.
What?
Episode 119. Yes.
Right? And so we're going to be talking about all 8 dimensions, and it'll be Shannon and I. And we're going to be talking about the guests we had on last season because it was an incredible season, and just checking in with ourselves and you as our listeners about where are we with the 8 dimensions of wellness as summer's here. I
Mhm.
know if it's officially not here till next week,
Right.
but we're so close. And
Yeah.
by the way, we're taking off next week.
Yes, we
So
are.
we won't be with you live, but
But
let's talk about that.
we're not going to run up. Why are we taking off next week, Christine?
Oh, just a little thing. A little thing. A
We're
little thing.
celebrating Christine's life. Her
Right?
life, we're celebrating. Yes.
My 53rd birthday. I
Mm,
will be in North Carolina doing the international and national leaders gathering for our interplay community.
yeah.
So it
Love
is
it.
going to be fun. I will
All
be
these things.
technically working, but since my work is play,
Yeah.
I figured it was a great way to celebrate my 53rd birthday.
They're lucky to
So
have you on your birthday.
thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are you including? How are you including self-care on your birthday? What are you going to do for you to celebrate?
Well, I am staying at an awesome place. We're at
Okay.
Hall State Park in North
Mm,
Carolina, up near Raleigh, Durham. So it's going to be beautiful. So I'm going to take a walk in nature and look for beauty because that's
mhm.
what I do when I'm stressed. It's what I
Okay.
do when I'm joyful. It's what
Okay.
I just love it. And this time of year, there's so much beauty, right?
Yes.
And I'm going to be surrounded with some dear friends. And, I'll be checking the socials because it's always fun when
Yeah.
people reach out.
Yeah, it is.
And I may take a nap. We're having a
Love a
party
nap.
that night. We're
Okay.
having a clown party.
Have
So
you
we're
ever had a
doing some
clown party for your
I
birthday?
haven't. I haven't. Not even when I was little, I wasn't a
Right.
huge fan of clowns, but
Right.
I like these clowns. I like these improv clowns. So I'm
Okay.
hoping
Okay.
that it's going to be joyful and not
Yes.
traumatizing.
No.
No, it won't be because they are professional performers and
Yeah.
clowners, and so they
Yeah.
wanted to throw. So my colleague Tere, who is our emerging leaders
Mm.
coordinator, it's also her birthday the day before. She's
Ooh.
solstice baby. And
Yes.
so we were like, we're throwing us a party. So
I
that's
love
what we're
it.
doing. We're having an improv party. We'll be
Yeah.
playing and performing. And,
Good. Yeah.
so, and because I'm at this conference all week, I also don't have to cook or clean. So
Mm.
that in itself is a huge self care birthday present.
Yes. A load off, right? Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is
So
Ignati
very,
gonna be there?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Because Ignati
Yeah.
came on the show, so when I think about clowning around and playing,
That's
I think about
exactly
Ignati.
who's going to be leading that clown
Yeah.
party. You know
Shout
it.
out to you,
And
Ignati.
Carolyn Renee's going to be there, who's been on the
Oh,
show. Shoinka
yeah.
Rahim's going to be here, who's
Ooh.
been on the show.
Breathe in love, breathe
Lucille's
out
going to
love.
be there. Like, a
Yes.
lot of our guests, because I love lifting up our inner players and the work they do in the world. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's going to be popping. It's going to be fun. Like, I think
Clearly.
we're going to have a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
this is our first leaders gathering in 3 years because of the
Mm.
pandemic. So
Mm.
being able to gather in community and be body to body
Yeah.
and is going to be powerful
Beautiful.
because we know the power of mirror neurons and playing
Mhm.
together
Mhm.
and dancing together and laughing and crying and
Yeah.
all the things we do in community. I
Yeah.
think it's going to be really powerful.
So can you say more about that? I know that mirror neurons is in the work of a guest that we have coming up on the show
Mhm.
soon. When you say mirror
Oh,
neurons, what do you think about?
okay. So what science is teaching us
Mhm.
is that when we are with people, there are neurons in our body that we mirror from the other person. It's an unconscious thing, it's a biology and physiological thing. So, you know how you walk into a room and somebody is joyful and happy and delighted? Our body wants to mirror that. And our neurons are like, oh, it's time to be happy. It's time to be joyful. The same as when you walk in, say, to a funeral where people are grieving and heavy, like our body goes, whoa, I should be grieving. Like, so it's that piece of a lot of times. I mean, those are two examples that are very, like, you can see it, but a lot of times we're
That's
going
important.
through life every day and we don't even realize that we're mirroring somebody else's body movement or
Yes.
their emotions. And if we're not embodied and checked in with ourselves, we can be giving it away.
Mhm.
So, like, Sheila and I talked this week at class about sorting and separating, like, what's mine and what's yours. And
Yes.
you and I've had this conversation because as business partners and co-hosts, often if
Mhm.
the one of us is funky, we have to make sure the other one's not, like, we're not taking it on, right? Like, it's
Yes,
like,
it's
oh
the
wait,
thing.
that's yours, that's
Mhm.
not mine. I
Mhm.
can be empathetic, but I
Right.
don't have to take that on.
Right. I don't have
And
to pick up the weight of it.
right, right.
Absolutely. And when I think about it, that I think about the level of excitement that I have for the compound healing that Women Connected in Wisdom helps and is gonna help so many individuals and families with. And it's because of I think about the compound healing because I think about the compound trauma and how I feel when I see certain stuff. Like this season, y'all, even this year, we said it's going to be difficult. It's been a very trying year, right? And the things that I've been seeing about even the inmates being taken care of, we had barred business on. I've not been okay. And this is a trigger warning, Christine, because I know we are very empathetic, right? This gentleman was eaten to death alive by bed bugs. That sounds like a chronic problem. This other gentleman, 54, passed away because he didn't have his medicine, $2,000 a month, and was a verbal altercation over a Wi-Fi password with a neighbor. So I'm thinking about social wellness, and it cost him his life and a lot of other things because he didn't have his medicine. And so it brings me back to the mirror neurons and how it
Hmm.
makes sense why I'm not okay when I see these stories, and the everyday check in and the recentering that we have to do to hold both the grief and gratitude as we go through life. And when we talk about how we do all of it, I'm thinking about the stories of our ladies and the resources that they bring. And I've been super grateful to be working on our audiobook at this time and reading the chapters from volume 2 as we're talking about dealing with anger and
Right.
playing the cards that you're dealt and what can you do in life and what do we have control over as we sort and separate it, like you said.
All right, I have so many things I want to say to what you
Okay.
just said, but I want
I
to
know I
circle
said a
back
lot.
around to one thing because I
Yes.
know it's my language and I'm
Hmm.
changing this language. So
Yes.
I want to shift the language from us holding
Holding
grief
it.
and gratitude
And what did you
to
change it to?
acknowledging grief and
Acknowledging.
gratitude. Because when we hold it, what I noticed in my own life is when I hold it, like it's one
Hmm.
thing to hold the gratitude, it's another thing to
Yeah,
hold the grief.
that's true.
And and we can't, our bodies can't hold everything. Like we say in interplay, often stories are too big for one body to hold,
I
and
love that you
especially
guys
with
say
what's
that.
going on in our world right now, right? If you're tuned in at all to the world, you're either devastated or angry. I mean, there's really,
There we
like, that's
go.
about
Yeah.
if you're really
Yes.
paying attention, right?
Hmm.
And so that's too big for one body to hold, so but we can
Hmm.
acknowledge it, we can
Yes.
acknowledge the grief and gratitude and let it pass through us,
I like
right?
that.
And
Yeah.
we do want to acknowledge it because we don't want to suppress it. We
No.
don't want to, like, it's real,
Hmm.
right? And
And for me, it's been processing it, right? When we don't acknowledge anything, we can't process it. And when you hold
right.
on to it, that's when stuff starts building up. And
Whew.
now when we talk about things, there's a whole list of things from the past 32 years. And you're like, wait a minute, what happened when? Like, there's just a list of different ways that we could talk about it. And because I'm not for the chronic illness, I absolutely believe in looking at stuff when it happens, processing it in a healthy way, and I love what you
And
said,
letting
acknowledging
it
it. Yeah,
go,
let it go.
right? Letting
Yep.
it go.
Mhm.
Um, for our listeners that have been listening a long time, you know that I am married to my sweetheart of
Yes.
29 years.
Shout out to Joe.
And shout out to Joe. And we had a little um, disagreement while we were on
Happens.
our camping trip, right? On
Okay.
the way to. I
Mhm.
don't know if this happens to anybody else, but often when there's big events, right? We always laugh and we say, okay, we got that fight out of the way. Because usually when companies come in or there's a big event or like it's when emotions build up, right? Um, and I say the let it go piece because that's how I function in the world. Like I handle big things. And as a social worker, as a counselor, like if I held everything in my body, first of all, I still wouldn't be on this planet,
Right, that's what I was
right?
gonna say, yeah.
But Joe he loves to bring up stuff from like 15 years ago. So I'm like, yeah, not fair. It's not fair fighting. It's not.
Yeah.
So it came up this last when we were in this parking lot. We were in a
Mhm.
parking lot of I can't even, it was farm and feed store or something, and tensions had gotten, and we just needed to
Right.
stop and talk about it, right?
Got it.
And he brought up something. I said, that hadn't happened in years,
Mhm.
and he was like, I was like, no, literally years.
Right.
Like, yeah. And so it's very interesting how different people approach different things, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
And but I'm a big proponent of, yes, we acknowledge it, yes, we heal it, and then we let it go.
Me too.
So
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
So thinking about the 8 dimensions of wellness
Mhm.
and summer, how you doing?
I am really I'm doing great with me losing my AirPods, me losing my wallet, and then my car didn't start. On top of everything else, it would be like you're saying, like, no, what is going on? But my preparedness in the situations, my ability to pivot and say, okay, this is what I need to habit stack and add into my workflow. If I drop something, I need to pick up what I dropped. check the area, survey the area before you move your feet, right? And make sure that your purse is always zipped. That helps me with my systems and my habits. So it's going to make me better for later on. And with the car situation, Shannon, before, when my other Honda hit the cement wall on the highway, I either had money for rent or to get my car fixed. Shannon now, 30-year-old Shannon, has my money split in different accounts. I was like, I'll just pay whatever I need to pay out of the taxes account because that's why I hold the tax money so I can use it on expenses first instead of giving it to somebody else. And there may have been some frustration with the level of hospitality I was met with from the customer service department at different Hondas. But I will even say there, I said, you know what? I had it scheduled, right? The tow truck was going to go to a place. I got off the phone. I said, it's not working for me. And I changed the address. And it was 5 or 6, 7 calls to fix that on the back end. But I was willing to go through those calls to intentionally put the cash flow where I wanted to put it because I need to be taken care of. And so those things, I think I'm doing really good right
Uh,
now.
yes, yes. I just
Yes.
heard in there, I heard emotional and mental wellness.
Hmm.
I heard environmental wellness because of
Hmm.
choosing where you wanted to be. I
Yes.
heard financial wellness. I
Hmm.
heard intellectual, like,
Yeah.
well
And even
done.
thank you. And I call the spiritual wellness people, even on the conference, getting the feedback that I just sound so sure of what I say, even though I have all the questions. I feel like I have more questions than a lot of people, but people like you're sure, you're confident, and that comes from I know everything's going to be okay. It's either a battery, the alternator, the starter. I need to get a new car. Whatever is going to happen, I sorted and separated it and trusted that what was supposed to happen would fall in place. So thank you.
Well done. Well done.
Yes. What
Yeah,
about
I
you?
think about, well, oh, that's a very good question. It's been a tough couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I will say I'm okay. And it's because of my practices, it's because
Yeah.
of what I do. But I'm wading through some pretty big grief and loss right now.
Yeah, you are.
And I took my 2 mile walk this morning, walked Monty, cried while I was walking, just
Good
let
job. Good
myself,
job. Yeah.
because I was with a friend and a buddy because that's how I often do my walks. And I was like, I just have to walk through it, literally. I have to
Hmm.
walk through it. I have to cry through it. It's that's just what sometimes happens with life. And it's like in death, because that's
Yes.
what I'm dealing with somebody that I love.
I hear you.
And yeah, it's just the season.
Yeah.
It's it is the season. And I said to somebody the other day, because there's been a lot of grief and loss this year,
Yes.
I really feel so lucky because I have incredible connections in my life. And yes, it sucks when a diagnosis is given or
Mhm.
we know that we're walking towards an end of life. But
Yes.
I also have the gift of my time with them and the gift of just how much love I have in my life and with
Yes.
the people I have. And it is just, I don't take it for granted. I just, and lucky because we're creating our life the way we want to with occupational wellness, that I
Yes.
can pretty much work from anywhere.
Yes.
So I can go be with the people I need to be with and
Hmm.
work and still get
Yeah.
to see them and be with them. And so I think I'm okay. I wouldn't say I'm great right now,
Hmm.
but with my practices and just being transparent with our listeners because I believe in resources.
Hmm.
Called my therapist. It was like, hey,
It's important. Hmm. Good
need a
job.
check in,
Yes.
and
Hmm.
in making sure my emotional and mental, because I am often the one that holds so much for other people
Hmm.
that when I start not being okay, it doesn't just affect me. It's like a
Hmm.
ripple effect. And it was like, okay, make sure you're okay, and
Hmm.
then and even as that comes out of my mouth, knowing it's okay to not be okay sometimes. That there are circumstances where it's okay to say, hey, I just need to take a break and I need to take a deep breath. And, we did go off the grid last week for 4 days and went camping, and that was incredible. And I came back to some heavy news, but I had those 4 days. And yeah, just working it, you know.
Yeah.
It, often in the AA world, there's a statement about it works if you work it in the 12-step program.
Yes.
And there's also in and I think that's true with wellness. And I think it's
Hmm.
true with what we talk about with the 8 dimensions of wellness.
Hmm.
Like, it's one thing to know about it, it's another thing to put it in practice. And so making sure I'm getting out there and walking 2 miles, making sure that I'm taking pictures of my flowers. And so, speaking of, just for all my flower nerd listeners out there, I'm going to put a picture in our show notes of the gladiolas that I cut this week,
Hmm.
because I think we've talked about it on the show. I know we did because we talked through the pandemic. Do you remember the bulbs when my dad sent me 100 gladiola bulbs because he couldn't be with, because he was like, nobody's coming to visit until everybody's vaccinated? Well, they're blooming again this year. And, we had big rains. So a lot of them fell down. So I went out and cut them. So I'll share a picture with our listeners because they're gorgeous. And that gift that just keeps on giving
Yeah.
is, I'm grateful for.
Is that the picture that you put in our group chat on
Yeah.
Monday? The purple?
Yeah.
Beautiful. You
Right?
guys got to see this
Stunning.
picture. Yeah, bless my week. I was like,
Stunning.
yeah, yeah.
Right? And that was, and it's also funny when we talk about gifts, because
Mhm.
when that gift first came, my husband was like, "Are you kidding me? 100? Like we didn't have enough work to do, right?" And my
Yeah,
daddy's from Texas. He doesn't do anything small. So
that's a good point.
and so we planted them, and I just remember the joy during when we were during lockdown,
Mhm.
and a lot of us weren't going a lot of places, that
Right.
those flowers, that beauty just bloomed in my backyard. And so now this is the third year they're blooming, and it's just, yeah, I think that's why I love gardening, and I love flowers, and I love flower sharing. And
Hmm.
when things bloom, I can go, oh, this came from this person. So
Yes.
today I looked out and my daylilies were blooming, and
Mhm.
that just, mm.
And were those a gift?
Those were the ones that are currently blooming, yes. So my parents, and I think it was after the gladiolas, the street that I grew up on, people were thinning their flower gardens and
Mm-hmm.
sharing with each other.
Hmm.
And my parents sent me a whole box of different plants from people all up and down the street that I grew up on. So it was
Hmm.
either their house or the neighbor's house. I don't know
Got it.
exactly whose was whose, but it's
Right.
from where I grew up. And so I don't know.
That's
There's
beautiful.
something. It is
Mm.
something
I
like,
need that paddle. You do know.
right? I
And
do.
I hate to use that word, the sign. You do know. Yeah.
Well, there's a Instagram going around, and because we are different generations, it may not be showing up on your feed, but it's definitely showing up on my feed. And it talks
What's it
about,
say?
one day I was living this cool radical life, and the next day I'm talking about my flowers in the garden.
Mm,
I
yeah.
think they said vegetables in the garden. I'm taking
Got
pictures
it.
of the vegetables. Same
Yep.
concept, right? It's
Yep.
like, but it really does bring me joy. It's like,
Mhm.
that's one of the things that brings me joy, is to
Yeah.
look for beauty, especially in hard times. So,
And I mean, I think it's worth sharing, especially with what you shared about everything you're
mhm,
going through. We know dad has moved to somewhere else. So for you to be able to see that, I think it definitely
mhm,
makes sense how it would add on a number of different levels.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is a gift that keeps on giving. And
Yeah.
then I get to take pictures and send it to him, and
Right.
that's super fun
Mm.
too.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about this season, and we started this season. First of all, I want to acknowledge to our listeners, this season was the first time I took a break from Women Connecting Wisdom. So
Yeah. Yeah.
this is the most shows I've missed in 2 years. So it was kind of weird for me, but
Yeah.
grateful. Thank you for holding the space, and our guest
Absolutely.
co host. So we
Yes.
started out this season. You and Dr. Cynthia Phelps were
Hmm.
hosting Glenda Lane
Yes.
with Freedom to Flourish and to say bye bye to overwhelm and depletion.
Yes. And so for me, it's a lot about mindset, and apologizing for some people. I had this conversation yesterday. Please stop apologizing for not answering my call. if you weren't available, you weren't available. I'm glad you weren't available. Don't be available. Call me back next week, whatever makes sense, you know? And she called me at the perfect moment. I had space to talk and everything fell in place, you know? So when I think about what we talked about on that show and the overwhelm, depletion, and even what you just said, it's the how do you keep the things that you can consistent? What are the non-negotiables in your life? You said, I walked my 2 miles. You said, I was with somebody else. That is something that you consistently do, you know? So that you holding that is holding the sanity, holding the situation a little bit. And that's what I
Yeah.
see.
And
Yeah.
sleep. Like one of my non-negotiables is sleep.
Yeah, me too. You
And
don't want to see it.
right, yeah, I'm with like these people that can function on no sleep, not me.
Commendable.
Not me.
Right. Yeah.
Um, I was a little nervous because last Wednesday, one of the reasons I was off last Wednesday was I was presenting at a big conference in Georgia,
Mm,
and our friend Cecile was in town, and I had told her. I can't remember how it all happened, but very
yeah.
long story short, I had to
Yeah.
have her at the airport at 6 a.m. in the morning on
It was
Wednesday.
early. Yeah.
Well, I woke up at 3 a.m. in the morning. We had
Okay.
originally said we were going to wake up at 4 a.m. I was wide awake at 3 a.m. And then you
Mm,
know how when you have a deadline, then you're afraid to go back to sleep. So I'm texting her because she had told me I may not sleep. I
mm,
texted her to say, hey, are you asleep? She's like,
mm,
no. I'm like, all
mm,
right, how about we take you to the airport?
mm.
Neither one of us are sleeping. So I got to the airport early, which was awesome because you know the Atlanta airport is never not busy.
That's true.
And so got to the airport early, came home. I think I snagged an hour nap, 2 hour nap, because I thought I'm opening this conference for 400 people on not my regular sleep. Like,
Mhm, mhm.
holy, and I can do it for one night, right? I
Yeah.
can do it. I just have to give a shout out to Soka and Dr. Adele Flowers, her team.
Mhm,
This is the Georgia Department of Behavioral and Human Services, and they do a system of care academy every
mhm.
year for caregivers and psychologists and counselors, and it's a big system.
Yeah.
And they put on an awesome conference, and I've been a part of it for the last couple of years virtually. And
Yeah.
so this was the first time that it was in person again, and it was powerful. Did you see my social media about what I won a ticket for from the keynote speaker?
No. Would you win?
It's a little embarrassing.
Okay.
So the keynote did an incredible job. So I opened the conference, and
Yes.
then I had a breakout session. And the keynote was a gentleman that was talking about kindness, and he had this whole story that ran through his whole thing. But he would give away lottery tickets. So the lottery ticket I won for was the person who had the most photos in their phone.
Hmm.
It's a little embarrassing. So,
Why?
well, because of the number
Okay.
and the second place, like it was like
Was it a
okay,
big difference?
oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So
So,
let's I would pause it though because it's funny. In this past week, I shared a
mhm,
post of us on for my birthday, right?
right.
And I said, Christine, I make sure that we get the professional photos, and you make sure we take the personal photos, and you do make sure that we get the pictures, and
I
I appreciate that.
well, and part of that, y'all, is just my strategy for intellectual wellness and remembering where I've been
It's
because
important.
I am so delighted to have such a full life. And I've never had a good memory. This isn't an age
Mm,
related thing. I haven't had
mm,
a good, that's part of being on the spectrum and neurodivergent. Like, I
mm,
don't hold, I will hold somebody's personal story. Like, I can meet them once and
mhm.
pretty much, I may not be able to tell you their name, or but I can tell you the story they shared with me, right?
Right. Yes.
Um, but I can't tell you like, okay, when was I there, or
Right.
what was the name of that town, or who was there with us? Like, so I
Yeah.
love having a device in my pocket that I can take a picture, and then it helps me to remember.
Mhm.
And so the thing that this keynote speaker did, so he had us pull out our phones
Yeah.
and he had us look at how many pictures were in our phones, which, but the other thing he had us do was just take a moment to look through a picture, grab a picture, and share. And I love this prompt because I do prompts like this with Interplay already.
Yeah.
But share the story of a picture in your phone.
Mhm.
And so I had just taken a pink gladiola picture that morning that was stunning. And I shared the picture of my dad and him sending those bulbs. And it just was really connecting. And I thought, what an easy way to do that using technology. And this gentleman speaks a lot to kids. And so it was really powerful to listen to him speak. I need to pull up his name. It was Jason, and I'll have to remember the rest of his name. But it was about the power of kindness in our world. And I was really, it was a joy to be in person. It was a joy to be a part of it. It was really cool. So,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we can definitely put the name in the show notes. So, we talked a little bit about Glenda Lane, right? Shout out to Cynthia Phelps for being a co-host and a co-presenter, right, for that episode. And then we talked to Gwynneth with the power of art in the body. That was really good to finally get to tell her,
Right?
like, hey, I've already done the pity party. It did help. Thank you so much. And if you guys don't know, if you haven't listened to that episode, one of the things that I took away of what Gwyneth does is makes an art piece, right? And makes it into a pinata. So she had these, I think it was like the papers from her prescriptions, right? That she had made into a pill, and whatever detail she put into it that she felt like she wanted to hit or was frustrating or made her feel a certain type of way in the situation, right? And then you hit it like a pinata. And for me, the way we used it when I helped my best friend moved out of her mom's house a few weeks ago, I got an not an umbrella, a what is it called, Lord?
It
A
was a rainbow,
rainbow.
wasn't it?
Yes, it was a rainbow. And both of us are great at being optimistic. Even like I just said, oh, I'm great. And all these things have been happening. But sometimes you have to say it's not a rainbow. This is what's happening. So we took some envelopes and wrote the things that were frustrating about the situation or what we wanted it to look like, whatever we said, right? Put it into the rainbow and took it out to the backyard and beat it. And that was great. And it was, how do you say it, lethargic, right? It was a great release to be able to say, okay, that's done. We can go to the next step.
I love it. I love using art. First of all, I love practical art. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, I love art for art's sake, but
Yes.
I'm pretty practical. So I
Hmm.
also love practical art and using art to process. Like, we use interplay that way already, but
Hmm.
adding on that building of the art or the building of the pinata or the stuffing it with what you need to,
Right.
it's powerful.
Hmm.
And I know it was cathartic for you and your best friend.
I think that's the word, cathartic instead of, what
Mhm.
did I say, lethargic? I think that's a different word. I think it is
That's okay.
cathartic. Thank you. But yeah, and our episode was great. We talked about something else I think about with Gwyneth is how people can look at you differently and how the power of your voice can transcend that. Everybody has their own unique power. And so when we look at art and the things that people put out in the world creatively, the perspective that that artist is putting out, but also the perspective that you have from your situations and your life, how you look at things. I love having conversations like that in the middle.
Yes, huge shout out to Gwynneth. She is leading the charge at Interplay. She's
Mhm,
one of our leaders about diverse embodiment and
mhm.
how we all show up differently, right?
Diverse
But
embodiment.
well, it's about like the disability and accessibility community and the fact that that's a community that any of us can join at any time, no matter how
Yes.
old we are, and
Hmm.
that is one of the largest communities, and it's more when you join it, not if you join it,
Mm,
right? And so, how do we play? How do we have art
yeah.
with diverse embodiment? That because our world is so ableist. I was watching today. I was on the front porch after I came back from my walk. I took about 10 minutes because the storm was rolling in
Mhm,
right before I got back. I mean, this huge thunder, and it's one of my favorite things about our house is our front porch. And so I went and got some water because I've your head is always in my
yeah.
voice about drinking water. So I went and got some water and I sat on the front porch to watch the storm roll in. And
Hmm.
I was flipping through my phone because it wasn't quite here, and I saw, I think it was Britain's Got Talent.
Hmm.
I'll have to post a link in the show notes, but it was this young man who had had cancer, and he lost one of his legs. One of his legs was
Mm,
amputated,
mm,
and he had been a football player before, and now he was a dancer. And I have been around a lot of dancers between interplay and the artist I'm around.
yeah.
His dance was phenomenal.
Mm,
Like his dance, it was incredible. And I'll
mm,
post a link to it in our show notes because it was just so inspiring for so many he was just a great dancer,
yeah.
never mind that one of his legs was a like,
Right.
he
Yes.
was it was ridiculous how awesome it was. And
Mm,
so I really love Gwynneth's voice and coming on and talking about and really uplifting folks' voices who in the past have been marginalized or
mhm.
people ignore or you know don't think that their value is the same
Right.
because of how their bodies are.
Right, because of where we feel like their physical wellness is, which is something to sort and separate, and I don't think is my call to judge anyways, you know? So,
Right.
super excited to be able to lift her up. And, we just talked about that on a coffee and chat with one of our guests that'll be coming on soon, and how people will look at you and say, "Oh, you're this," and just dismiss whatever you were going to say, and we don't do that over here, and we know that that's not effective to maybe get you to the next point of wellness. You know, anybody can be a teacher, anybody can be a student. So I
And
love
I
it
would
when it's
say for us not to do it to ourselves.
that
Because,
too.
especially here in the United States, like
Hmm.
when we look at media, what if we are not conscious of sorting and separating, like what the truth is from what media teaches us? When I was in grad school, I
Yeah.
was introduced to a book called Can't Buy Me Love,
Okay.
and it's by Jean. Oh, I have to look it up. Y'all know I don't
That's
hold those
okay.
things in my head. I'll
Yeah.
put it in the show notes. But it was really talking about the advertising industry and media and
Hmm.
how they try to convince us that we need to look a certain way or
Hmm.
that we need to wear a certain thing or that we need to have this perfume and we'll have love or if we lose 2 dress sizes we'll have
Hmm.
the job of our dreams. And I think we have to be really careful sometimes and sort and separate out like what is true for us and our wellness and are we well,
Hmm.
are we as we go through the 8 dimensions and not base it on what we think it should be, but working with our healers, our doctors, our coaches,
Community.
whoever,
Yeah.
our
Right.
community, working with our experts to really check in our own body and our inner
Hmm.
authority
Hmm.
to know what do I need in this moment.
Absolutely. And what's realistic, right? When you bring that up, I'm thinking about these surgeries, and even in the news recently, Jackie O passed away. Rest in peace, Jackie O, right? Beautiful young mother and had surgery, and unfortunately, she did not come home. And that's not the only story. And there's a list of other stories that go various ways.
Did you see the one about the Olympian who died in childbirth at home?
But I don't, was that related to surgery for? But that
No,
was her giving, I did see that.
yeah, young
What
black
happened?
mother, Olympian. They think it was in eclampsia or something like
Okay.
that, but it's tied to, and we've had this conversation on the
Mhm,
podcast before about maternity care. Like
mhm,
maternity care, especially for black mothers in the United States,
mhm.
our mortality rate it's not first world. It's our mortality rates. We are not doing well with that. And
Right.
to have this young Olympian, yeah,
Mhm.
it was really heartbreaking when I read that story.
Yeah, it was. I have mixed feelings about it, to be honest with you. I think that with the way that it's said, because again, when we talk about advertisement, when we talk about psychology, I'm really picky with the propaganda, right? And I think that with what's been going on with all the track runners, the black women have been killing it, and that the way they posed it was not in support of her. I felt like it was when we're talking about mirror neurons, you thought that you could do better, and even here you're not safe, which is true, and that's what we're talking about, and that's the tragedy, and that's the root of
Mm.
what we're talking about. But I think it's also being used that way, which is why the conversation we're having is so important, because what
Mhm.
you're seeing is part of it, And, we have to sift and sort and separate the different parts that we pay attention to, and
Mhm.
give
Are you
space
do-
and
are you not
access.
liking that she's because they're leading with her being an Olympian, or what piece are you not liking?
I feel like it's that. I feel like it's a
Mhm.
tear down of the Black female Olympians.
Oh.
That it's not in, oh wow, mothers need to be better taken care of. It's the way that the light is shown on it. Yes.
Mm.
Yes, it's not in
Yeah.
support of, yeah,
I've
of it.
seen some of that, I'm going to call her name because I
Yes.
think that's important. Terry Bowie.
Yes.
She was 32 years old. She won 3 medals at the
Mhm.
2016 Rio de Janeiro games.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, I hear you.
Mhm.
I thought when I read it, of course, I
Yes.
have a different take on things sometimes, but
Mhm.
I was kind of like, I was hoping it would be positive to shine the light on here is a young Black woman in her prime, like physical health, and she still in America died of complications of childbirth.
Mhm.
Like, I was hoping that it would shine some spotlight or awareness on that issue, which is so multi layered.
And so are you saying that when you read it, you felt like it did? Or are you
Um,
saying that that was your hope in the publicity of the story being out there the way that it was?
I think it was my hope. I don't know. Yeah, and there was a lot of misconceptions because people were thinking she was trying to do a home birth, and she was not. She just went in either had eclampsia or went into labor early.
Yeah,
It was non-intentional.
right.
So
And again, this is we are very intentional about not trying to tear down specific
right,
things if we haven't done the
yeah,
research for it or known all the details. I think that's
right,
big. Um, but holding space for the way that the stories are told, that it's in support of that person, being mindful of the images that are out there. And like we said,
absolutely.
whether it's the way that our bodies and through maternity are taken care of, and the access to the resources that we have, or even the images that we see and the news stories that we see and the way that they affect us. I'm really intentional about it, and picky about it, of course.
I think we have to be for all the dimensions of wellness, right?
Mhm. Yes.
And the understanding, and we stated it earlier, but also that different images are going to affect us in different ways
Right.
because of our own life history and our own life story. And,
Absolutely.
you know, me as a white 53-year-old, it's going to
Hmm.
land differently than you as a black 30-year-old.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
like,
Before having children.
right? It's
Yes.
like, holy geez,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
just holding space for all of the things that we've brought up on the show today, because it can be
right.
a lot. But that's also specifically why we are doing this show. That's why we're on episode 119, and we're coming back for season 14, right? Because
Wait, are we? Oh,
we
yeah,
are
we are coming back over the right.
we are we are but because we want to make sure one, we're not saying that I have not done the research to say that what
Mhm.
happened could have been prevented. We know that there's things
Yeah,
that are going to happen, some things we cannot
mhm,
prevent, and it's nobody's fault, right?
right.
But when we can be preventative and be set up, absolutely, I want to be ahead of the game. I want to have resources and things in place.
Well, and also to not take for granted. I mean, I
Mhm.
think often it's taken for granted. Oh, people have
That
babies all the time, and this is good.
uh,
It's like, yeah, no, like this is still a miracle, y'all. That things go well. I think in so many ways. I want to talk about a few of our other guests
let's do
this
it.
season because we had some incredible ones.
And this is
So
perfect.
Lori Ives-Godwin was
Yes,
talking about self-regulating your emotions. I don't know about you,
helps so
Shannon, but I
much.
am still using what she taught us.
And I will continue to for the rest of my life. Absolutely. That's the point of the show. It's been great.
So, what had stuck out to you the most about that? Like, what's the thing you still use?
So for me, my wisdom in action that week was find your anchor, right?
Mm,
And is what word are you pulling in to anchor in your heart when you take a deep breath? And finding different ones in different moments has helped. Just taking that simple step during the day has been what I've been using. What about you?
right? Well, I've used it in front of big groups of people, given her
Mhm.
credit and heart math credit, but had
Yes.
them breathe, had them anchor in ease and gratitude
Yes.
and myself, right?
Mhm.
Because as we've walked through a lot of big stuff the last couple of weeks, just remembering that heart math and that we can literally take just a few seconds to reset and regulate our nervous system.
So
So,
important.
y'all, if you missed that episode, please go back. That's one I will go back and listen to. And
Mhm.
that's saying something because I don't like to go
I hear you. We don't go back to the 120 episodes over and over. We're on to the next, right?
well, there's just
Um,
not enough hours in the day, right?
hello. No, there's not. But I love it. And we're intentional about the action steps. So we're always going to bring the experts on and what can you do. But when it's that simple and when things happen, it's really been great to center throughout the day. Even, in our community, I might send you love or joy, knowing the different words. It's actually helped me even send different stuff to our community in the different situations that we've been in, because I think that's something that might help them anchor in that moment.
Mm,
So very
hmm
big and very important.
I love that. Then we
Yes.
had Debbie Weisman
Mhm.
with See Where Spirit Can Take You. And she was the dream coach. And that was a powerful episode
Yes.
about using our dreams to help figure out our lives.
Mhm. And for me too, it was whether it's what she helps her clients with or Debbie's story personally, what I think about when I think about this episode is the boldness to ask for what you want in life.
Mm.
For me, that's my spiritual wellness. When we talk about um, females in America, where Black people are supposed to be. Where spirit can take me anywhere. We're on the top of the world right now. Like
Hmm.
Shannon, little kid on the playground, was on top of the world at the top of the little spiral thing, right? And now with Women Connected, we're literally on top of the world. Um, and so that's what I think when I think about that episode.
You saying that about being on top of the world.
Yeah.
Right now, so much at the front of my mind is my Aunt Joan.
Yes.
And we've talked about her on the show before, but she is one of the women in my life that I say I am because she is.
Yes.
And one of the major reasons is when I was 18, she taught me how to jump out of an airplane because
Mm,
she was a master jump master.
mm,
And I was trying to kind of sum it all down. Like, I tell a big body story about her. I've written a poem about this experience. Like, there's art that comes out still of this coming of age trip that
yes.
was when I was 18, right? And I think about, I was trying to sum it down to one word because we often do that in storytelling. Like, we tell the big
Mm.
story and then bring it down, bring it down, bring it down.
Ooh.
And I think the gift that Aunt Joan gave me, that is also, I think, related to Debbie Weisman,
Mm,
is expansiveness.
mm,
Like, how to expand. Like, when I think about when I jumped out of that airplane, and it was literally me and God,
mhm.
because she was my instructor, I got to do the advanced dive where I jumped
Wait.
out with,
The first
yeah.
time you did not do tandem, you had nobody on your
Oh
back, it was
no.
you by yourself?
Here's what I did. I jumped. I know, shocking, right? I know. I jumped out.
Oh
I
my
think it
goodness.
was 10,500 feet. It might have been
Yeah,
12,000. I get
yeah.
it wrong sometimes. And she's like, "Baby, you'd had to have oxygen for that. We weren't that high up, but it was still high.
She's the
Little
master jumper,
Cessna,
right? Yeah.
right?" And I had a jumpsuit on that had handles on both sides, and so I
Mhm.
jumped out with two instructors holding on to me. So we
Okay.
did the free fall
Mhm.
with two instructors. Then we were watching the altimeter. They tapped the altimeter. They let go of me,
Mm.
and I pulled my ripcord by myself. So,
Okay.
right. So it
Got
was
it.
my job to do it.
Good
and
job.
so, and then what that meant
Yeah.
is it was my job to steer it down. And so
Mm.
literally it was just
Mm.
me and God up there. And it expanded my world. It
Yeah,
expanded my worldview. It
I can relate.
expanded what was possible for me.
Yeah. When they tapped
So,
the thing, I was coming down. I missed it. If I would have been up there by myself, parachute would have been late. Okay, just know that.
where did you jump? I don't know that we've ever had this
Mm.
conversation.
I don't remember. I got it off of a Groupon, and it was out in Georgia somewhere, maybe like
Okay.
an hour, hour and a half away. It wasn't bad. But that year I
Okay.
went to a Beyonce concert and skydiving. And
What?
skydiving,
Now
yeah, it
talk
was
about
good.
expanding your world,
It
my
was good. It
friend.
was good.
Right?
And yeah, skydiving was 7 days after the first time I had ever been in a plane, so it was definitely an experience.
Holy jeez.
Yeah,
Well done.
thank
Yeah,
you.
it was well, now that you say that, isn't that interesting?
Mhm.
Because I think I've been in a plane when I was a baby but couldn't remember, but it was
Yeah,
my first solo trip. So it was probably my first time to consciously remember being
right.
in a plane. I hadn't
Mhm.
even thought about that till this
Yeah,
moment. So
expansive.
I flew out to California.
Yeah.
And then it was within 7 days. I'll have to go back and look at my timeline, but that she taught me then to jump out of
Mhm.
the plane.
You know what Imma tell you now? Every time you say you're not ready, you were ready with that parachute by
Right?
yourself. You know how
Yeah.
to steer it, baby. You
Right?
got it. Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Well, and it was I jumped over the Mojave Desert.
Mhm.
So I was out in California and yeah, I did it twice. It was wild.
Yes.
It, but I think about that when I think about see where spirit can take you
Mhm.
and that privilege of having that opportunity.
I hear you.
So we had so many good guests this season.
It's been
I'm just
amazing.
like, right? We had Cindy James who talked
Yeah.
about reclaiming the feminine soul of money. That was a
So good.
powerful conversation.
Yeah. And I think about her acceptance of pleasure. I think she would love my description like that. And women, a lot of times, I think that we shy away from it. We feel bad when we're at ease and well taken care of and thoroughly enjoying ourselves and not taking care of somebody else, like in this
Mm,
moment, I can reclaim the feminine soul of money and say, yep, I'm happy to be able to swipe it. Yep, happy to be able to buy the car battery, no problem. Glad it wasn't the alternator. And stand in that power and remember that feminine energy does stuff a unique way that can help. We know that
mhm.
from Laurel Ann Stark's research that female entrepreneurs add a lot to the economy. They could add another, what is it, like, I don't want to misquote it, millions, billions of
It
dollars.
was in the
I think it was
billions, I'm
trillion.
pretty sure.
I thought it was 71 trillion, but I don't want to misquote it.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was
something up
big. It
there.
was big.
So when we reclaim that and are confident in what we're doing and thankful for, like you said, the opportunities that we have, I think that's us growing in, the feminine power that we have with the cash flow that we have the opportunity to steward and also with the opportunities that we can afford, right? Hey, if
Mhm.
you need help, I don't have to help you from my pocket. I can help you from the business. And now it's a win-win situation and things are starting to be taken care of in a healthy way that's sustainable.
Right? And we
Yeah.
know as female entrepreneurs, solopreneurs,
Yeah.
business partners, like
Yes.
job creation, we were talking about that today about as we expand our team and being able to pay other women to do this work is powerful. It
Yes.
is it is a really I think that's part of that reclaiming the feminine soul of money. It's like,
Mhm.
we can all rise together.
Yes, the
So I think that's
collaboration over
powerful.
competition. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then it reminds me of even we're gonna go to Dr. Delia.
Yeah, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
Chiaramonte, so good.
I can't tell you how many people on my last trip that I recommended this episode to. you know, I love all our guests.
Yeah,
This one was special to me at the time of in my life that I am right now.
I
She was
understand.
talking about tough things with Integrative Palliative Institute and
Yes,
the difference between palliative care and hospice care and why it's important and very timely in my caregiving roles right now,
I
but
hear you.
also just the knowing of the support that's out there and the resources that are out there. And she shared some really awesome resources with our
Yes,
listeners.
yes.
And even knowing the information about the medical power of attorney, I have already
So
used that
good.
information several
Mm,
times.
good.
And Sati said she was listening to the show and was like, whoa, wait,
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah,
Know?
'cause I would've put it
So,
with the lawyer. You're supposed to put it with the
right?
medical power of attorney and maybe your doctor. Makes perfect
Right?
sense.
And
Yeah.
with the person, right, sharing it with the right people. So
Yes.
that's what I love about what we do. That we
Mhm.
not only have the experts, but they have the resources
Yeah.
and they're actionable resources that
Yeah.
literally, I think every episode this season, I took something from the episode and
Mhm.
put it into practice
Mhm.
and was like, here we go. And
Yep.
it was just right on time.
Yes. And what I love about it is a lot of times we talk about life, we talk about wellness, right? We talk about connection and the things that we're doing, but we know that um, transitioning is a huge part of life. And when we talk about self-care and community care and caregiving, that's a
Mhm.
lot of times because somebody is on that journey, right? And they're sick or something's going on with their physical wellness or whatever
Mhm.
it may be. And so to give resources there, because that's where people again have silence or might be scared to talk about what's going on or need help and not know how to ask for it. That's what we're all about.
Or don't even know to ask, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that's part of the things that we don't know what we don't know.
Ooh.
So,
So when I think about that, my goal, I was on the call a call with the city earlier, right? Excuse me to interrupt you. I was
no,
on
go
the
ahead.
call with the city and we were talking about how to, I don't remember the full name of the organization, but it was CAP, CAP, right? And if I pull up my notes, I'm sure, hold on, let me do justice because she did a great job. Alina did a great job with the Central Atlanta Progress, right? A nonprofit. And we were having a conversation about the Atlanta makers community and small business support ecosystem. And for me, it's about what was my point, Lord? Integrative Palliative Institute and the resources, the care. I think my point was just knowing that the resources are there, knowing, oh, that was my point, knowing what systems are in place so you know how to ask for help, right? And I had it and I just lost it again. What was it? Let me think. Integrative Palliative Institute, CAP. What was I going to say? Oh, what does success look like, right? In this call, I was talking about the businesses having the teams and the systems that they need for 5 years. But when I think about Palliative Institute and knowing how the system works, having those conversations with your family and your loved ones, what I see as success for this next generation that's coming up as adults and as caregivers is for us not to do it ourselves. I don't want us straining our bodies that are on, like we were talking about with Gwyneth, whatever spectrum of able to not so able or difficulties, right? Challenges. I want us to be able to hold space for ourselves and reclaim the feminine soul of money and pay somebody else to do it. Pay somebody who's competent and loving and attentive to take care of that person. And I love that in the need of what she saw as an entrepreneur does, she created the resource to help people with that. I think that's huge.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. It I'm still thinking about it. Like I'm
Of course.
still I may go back and listen again to that one because it's
Yeah.
so timely. But
Yeah.
I already went and downloaded her resources and it was
Hmm.
like, okay, this is good stuff, y'all.
And that was something that I saw that disturbed me too. There was a post about Tina Turner and her and how she lost her voice at the end of her life. I said, "No, that's natural. We're not going to take away Tina Turner's voice. We're not going to do that. It was amazing. It was strong for as long as it needed to be, and that is a natural part of transitioning. But if we
Sure.
don't know that, then it sounds like, oh, she lost her voice. No, now you have all
Mhm.
these people in the upheaval for no reason
Mhm.
because that's natural with where she was. And we're not going to take away power from her voice when she fought for the power of her voice. We're not going to do that.
Right? Thank
Yeah.
you for lifting
Yeah.
that up.
Of course.
Absolutely. Well, you and Coach Co closed us
Social
out
wellness.
last
Yes.
week.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we talked about environmental wellness, but I love having conversations with Coach Co, because as she shared in her story, she was nervous to use her voice and thought that it didn't matter, which is crazy because everybody loves her chapter in Miami for in volume one, right? Miami beaches and Georgia peaches. Y'all are gonna love the chapter for volume two. And we were talking about environmental wellness and how to integrate wellness into your environment. And with the difficulties, with things that happen in life, not only have my non-negotiables and the things that I can keep constant, like working out at least 4 times a week and drinking my water and making sure that I sleep, those help. But also, what do I see when I'm around me, right? I still have my candle here. That was on the last episode, right? I have another card. This one was from my boo for my 30th birthday. We'll put it up soon, but it's still out, right? And even my mom's urn is still here. And she's been here all season. It's been difficult. I said, you know what, you'll stay out and then I'll put her up soon. But that has helped me in my environmental wellness to stay anchored through the hospitality and the car and the events and the rest and everything. So we had a great conversation
Hmm.
about things like that last week.
Oh, so fun. So
Yeah.
fun. I have so many things on my desk that we don't
Yeah.
have enough time to show you. I
All right.
will show you this beautiful piece of art that my daughter gave me for Mother's Day.
Oh, is this
It's
an
an
owl?
owl. It's an
Ooh,
owl that she gave from a craft fair,
I like
and
it. Is it
that's
paint?
currently sitting on my desk. You know, that's a very good question.
Hmm.
I'm not
You know, I'm an
exact.
owl. Shout out to
I haven't
Kennesaw State Owls.
Right? I
Yeah.
haven't pulled it out to completely look at it. I'm going to show one more thing before we go
Yeah.
because I love showing this one. This is from my friend. This is a spirit doll from my friend and artist Monique Davis from
Yeah.
Jackson, Mississippi. You know, we
Mhm.
have some Jackson, Mississippi fans
Yeah, we
on
do
our
in that
listeners,
community.
including Joe Vantrius and
Yes.
Carolyn Renee, and
Yes.
so yeah, yes to environmental wellness.
So,
And
what does that do for you when you look at it and it's on your desk? Because I know you always have it there.
I think about connections with my friend Monique. I
Yeah.
think about art. I think about she made that for me. So like with the purple,
Yeah.
with the jewelry, I put a
Mm.
little I voted sticker because you know that, and she's holding a
Yes.
little sage. So
Yes.
I think about our friendship, and I think about love, and I remember to be creative,
Yeah.
and about connections, and that even though we're not in the same city, like she's with me on my journey. And so yeah, I have probably 100 teeny tiny pieces of art all around me. I'll
Yeah.
show you this one. This is Krista Jones, who
Let me
is a
see.
local Atlanta artist.
Is
This is
this
one of
new?
her sculptures. I was given this last year for my birthday from
Okay.
another friend.
Mm.
And Krista just right now, it's going on, y'all, at the Hudgens Center of the Arts. She has a
Mm.
full show. She doesn't have any of these sculptures, but she has some natural sculptures and she has some gorgeous paintings. And I'll put a link to that in our show notes. So, you know, I love my friend's art because it
Yeah.
reminds me to be creative and I look at a piece of my own art and I just yes to environmental wellness. I'd love to hear from our listeners. Like show us a picture of what's on your desk or the
Ooh.
art that you love to look at and because you know me, like art's my gig, so it's everywhere. It's
Yeah.
everywhere. It's
Yeah.
everywhere.
And I love that about you. Our relationship has reminded me to think about art more. It's
Mhm,
your relationship is like art and connection. You know, we're going to
mhm.
talk about artists and we're going to talk about connections.
Yep.
So made my life beautiful. Yes, adds to
No,
the
I
beauty
love
of
that,
it.
my friend. Well, and
Absolutely.
we can obviously talk about this all day because we're running long, but we probably ought to start moving towards wrapping it
No.
up.
Yes, let's do it.
Well, let's
Let's
talk
do
about
it.
our wisdom in action this week.
My wisdom in action. Let's see. It's the end of season 13. What am I doing? We're working on the audiobook. Ooh, I will do what I mentioned. The how do I want to say it though? Something around the non-negotiables or the things that you keep consistent. I'll just say hashtag stay consistent. I feel like that's what it's about right now. All these things
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
whirring past, and that's fine. Sorted and
Mhm.
separated. Most of it is not even touching me. I just need to stay consistent. Yeah.
Underrated. It's underrated, but I think it's a beautiful word. I think
Yeah.
it's a beautiful word. I mine is going to be hashtag feel your feelings.
Yes.
Because walking through some tough stuff, and it's pretty easy to just want to stuff it and work because
Yeah.
we got plenty of work to do. But
Definitely.
really allowing myself to feel my feelings and
Yes.
just know that it's okay.
Yeah.
You know,
I
this is
support you in
where
that.
we're at. Thank you. Yeah. Sheila K. Collins, who's one of our guests, my
Yes.
co-author,
Yes.
dear friend, always talks about the art of grieving and how everybody does it different, but using the art, and I really thought about that
Mm.
because of some poetry I've written, some pictures I've taken. So I probably need to feel my feelings and probably create
Mm,
some art
I like that.
to help me process. Yeah, so
Yeah,
just grateful, you
me
know,
too.
grateful.
Yeah. Super grateful to be surrounded by the women we're surrounded by.
Absolutely, and to
Yeah.
have community, to not have
Yes.
to do it by myself. I'm very thankful.
Yes. Yes.
So, reminder for everybody, we will not be live next week. We're taking the week off. We are going
Mhm.
to post an environmental wellness episode that we love. That if you haven't had a chance to listen to, listen
Yeah.
to. Anything else we want to say before we wrap?
I what came up for me was just thank you.
Yeah.
We thought we were gonna start January 6th, move the start date, and here we are, 2.5 years later, 119 episodes later. So thank you, Christine, for your consistency in
Thank
being
you,
here.
Shannon.
Of
Yeah.
course. And thank you to our listeners and everybody who downloads, the people who, join in the wisdom and action, even if you don't tell us about it and are doing the work to be in a place of better wellness so that you're better and your community around you is better. That's what we're doing it for.
Right.
So thank you for being on the journey with us.
Thank you for our listeners. We know
Yeah.
you're out there. Thank you, Brandy and
Yes, Brandy.
Joe
Yes.
and
Yes, Joe.
Diane. Like we have some pretty people that we adore. And if you're listening to our show and you love what we do, we would love a subscribe, a
Yeah.
like, and a rating. Because if you will give us a 5-star rating and give us a shout out with a sentence or two,
Yeah.
it really helps us and spreads the word for more people to
Yes.
find us.
Yes, yes. So we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. If you want to stay again on pace, we'll have that environmental episode up for you. In the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole. Peace.